I swear, September was over just like that, so I'm frankly shocked I read as much as I did. I want to start this video by giving a huge thank you to my top tier Wizard Master patrons. Thank you Nico, Ryan, Sharon, Scott, Mike, Aaron, Leslie, Doug, Chris, Wystitch, Twainy, Spyro, Sarah, and Chris, the Bookaholic. Thank you so much. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew. And today we are wrapping up the month of September 2023, but before we do that, please like this video and subscribe to the channel as it does help the channel grow, and you can check the description box down below for links to all of my social media, including information about my Patreon if you want to help support what I do here. I just want to give a huge thank you to all of my patrons. You guys make this an incredibly special experience, and I just appreciate your support of my hobby. That said, guys, I've got around 12-ish books to talk about. Well, I think I've got more than that, actually, because I had a couple NFNs. I made mistakes. I know I made mistakes. I shouldn't have made the mistakes, but I did make the mistakes. So we should probably just jump right on in with one of the ones I didn't end up reading, and this is 100% my fault. So we did the readathon for the Wizards Enclave Discord, and my team buddy read was supposed to be The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. This is Covenant of Steel, book number 1, and I didn't read it. And it's my fault I didn't read it because I knew I didn't like the narrator. I knew I didn't like Stephen Brand, and I had slotted that in for an audio slot. And I was like, you know what? It's been enough time. Maybe I'll give Stephen Brand another try. And Stephen Bland struck again. That man's got an amazing voice, but he's so monotone. He's so boring that, I never even made it past the first chapter. Like, I just zone out when I'm reading, or when I'm listening to a book narrated by Stephen Brand. So that one didn't even have a chance. And of course the quick cut in because I'm having equipment issues and my microphone decided to glitch out for some reason. I don't know what caused it, but you'll notice that John Palladino's Buzzards Bowl showed up in the background and it looks like a jump cut. That's because it's because of an equipment malfunction. Essentially what I was saying here is halfway through the month I kind of hit a low period in my mental health, and as this is a very dark fantasy that I love John's writing, and I'm not DNFing this. This is an NFN due to I just kind of fell into a depression and I couldn't quite process the book at the time, so I set it to the side. That's what I said in the cut clip. Hopefully this audio is clear, and yeah, back to the video as we start talking about the rest of the books. I think those are all the ones that I ended up putting to the side. And then I read, it doesn't surprise me that this book knocked it out of the park, R.J. Barker's Age of Assassins. I believe this is his debut. This is Wounded Kingdom number 1, and it follows Gerton Clubfoot as an assassin apprentice who basically a monarch has hired him and his master to catch another assassin to save her son because she's convinced someone's hired an assassin to take out her son. And it's fascinating. I love this. I did this one on audio, and it's funny because it was narrated by Joe Jameson. Joe Jameson? I think I've said that correctly. It's the same narrator who did The Greatcoats, and this is the first audiobook I've listened to by that narrator since The Greatcoats, and it was fantastic to be back into it. I can't wait for Blood of Assassins. This book was pulse-pounding. It was gripping. It was slightly dark. But at the same time, there's just a kernel of hope, there's just so many great themes in it. I loved this book. I thought R.J. Barker had peaked at Tidechild. Well, I don't want to say peaked. I thought Tidechild was the epitome of what R.J. Barker was going to have written that I was going to enjoy. And I think I enjoyed this more. Just a little bit. But, R.J. Barker's probably a new favorite author of mine. This was fantastic. So good. And then out of nowhere, I mentioned I kind of hit a mental health dip, and with that came a full-on fantasy block for a little bit. And that fantasy block took about a week for me to bust through, and in that time, I decided to reach for some mysteries. And who better than the Queen of Crime, Agatha Christie? And if you've been following the channel, I did a couple shorts on Hercule Poirot, because it's so difficult for me to say. I'm finally getting the knack of it. Like I said Hercule Poirot. I said the last name correct, and then I got a bunch of comments like, you don't pronounce the H. It's like, I can't get it right. But I read Death on the Nile. I read the ABC Murders, and I read Five Little Pigs. This nice Barnes & Noble collection has all 3 books in here. I'm counting this as 3 books because there are 3 books in here that were published independently and separately when first put out. This is a collection, but I've read this entire thing. And as a collection, like, if you come across this in a Barnes & Noble, pick this up. This was amazing. This reignited my love of Agatha Christie. Like, I'm expecting to, because I've got another 2 collections at the bare minimum, and I might even be picking up some Agatha Christie's from Folio Society. I would love to have those in my collection, so we shall see. But no, this has just absolutely made me fall back in love with this author and her work. She's amazing. She's brilliant. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. Let's talk about a very middling book. Well, I don't want to say middling. I want to say mixed book. I did Jake's Magical Market by J.R. Matthews, which was one of my patron picks. And essentially, my Wizard Adepts and up, they can all put a book on a wheel. I'll spin the wheel. Every other month, I'll read one of those books. And this is the one that got picked for this last month. And it was, the first half of the book was Jake's Magical Market. Like, that was great. I loved it. But the second half of the book, it stops being Jake's Magical Market and it becomes something else completely. It felt like the second half of the book should have been something completely different. I would have rather the book ended halfway through on a cliffhanger, because the cover art and the title Jake's Magical Market don't even apply to the second half of the book. It's like, it's so different. It takes place in a completely different setting. It turns into like a cultivation style thing from when it starts out as like a card-based lit RPG with like a slight Dungeon Crawler Carl vibe. It was good. Like, it was good, but I felt like the first half gave me an expectation of what Jake's going through. And essentially, like, aliens have, like, gave notice 100 years ago and the world leader covered it up that they were gonna do this apocalypse thing. And it turns into this kind of fun, whimsy thing into a darker sort of cultivation, sci-fi. Like, it's a complete shift. It tries to be like 5 different subgenres in one book, and I'm not sure it exactly works. And I just don't think the book stuck the landing for me. I had a good time with it, but I was still left like slightly dissatisfied with this one, so I gave it 3 stars. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, there's a couple more that I read digitally. First of all, being Dungeon Crawler Carl, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. I started off the month with this, and it's so good. The stakes have never been higher. I do think, because I did the audio, because you have to do audio with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I kind of think Patrick Warburton is wasted in this audio. Like, I don't think he needed to be there. Same with Travis Baldree. Like, if Travis Baldree hadn't been in the audiobook, I wouldn't have noticed. He plays a very small role. Same as Patrick Warburton. Like, I was very happy that they were there. Like, they were nice little kind of just flavor. But, I mean, Jeff Hayes does an amazing job anyway, and he could have easily covered those roles. So it's kind of interesting what we ended up with in those 2 kind of additional narrators for the 6th book. But again, it's crazy, it's out of this world, it's bombastic, it's insane, and it was a lot of fun. It was another card-based one, which that's my second card-based lit RPG. So I'm gonna try some more. I've got all the skills kind of on my radar, so we'll give that one a go when I get to it. And then I did The Lost City of Ithos, which is Mage Errant book number 4. This one I gave about 4 stars to. Oh, Carl was a 5-star book, by the way. I gave about 3.5 to 4 stars to Lost City of Ithos. And I love the character moments in here. I love them. Like, it's fantastic. But the series is also starting to show some of its weaknesses, because it's supposed to be like a progression-style fantasy, sort of. Like, it's not sold as a progression-style fantasy, but the elements are there. But you never really watch the progression happen. It all happens off screen. Like, they'll have a small revelation, or they'll just come out with all these new powers that they've been training. And I felt that was a particular weakness, and it showed a lot in this book, because they power up a lot from the 3rd and 4th book, Well, I guess this is the fourth book. In the third and fourth book, they do a lot of powering up. And they're becoming powers in their own right. But at the same time, I'm not watching them grow. Instead, it's focusing more on the character side, which I'm fine with, because I think book 4 had some of the highest character moments in Mage Errant, especially with Hugh, Talia, just everybody. Everybody has really great kind of growth in this book, and they're starting to kind of fit into their roles and stuff like that. And I'm excited for the 5th book, because I've heard the 5th book is kind of like the changes of the series, so I'm very, very excited for that. I think the rest are all physical reads. And physically, I'm both hauling and unhauling this book pretty much at the same time. Like, when I record my book haul, which is what I'm doing immediately following this, I'm going to be also saying that it's an unhaul. Because I read it, and it just wasn't for me. I just didn't quite get it. It's about 2.5, 3 stars. That's Is it upside down? It is upside down. It's Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I liked the art. I liked the concept. I liked the themes. But at the same time, I couldn't identify with any of the characters. I couldn't sympathize with their plight. Because it felt like they did it to themselves. Almost like there's something in here where for the first half of the book, there is an option to just not stay there. It's quite clear something is wrong with the town, or something wrong is going on. Like, horrific things keep happening right in front of these characters, and they just do nothing about it. Like, they're just like, oh, that was messed up, and then they go about their day, or they get like a little traumatized or a little manic, and then things continue to just constantly get worse. And I'm sorry, I'd have been out of town like the first or second time something happened. I'm like, you know what? I probably shouldn't live here. So it made it hard for me to kind of identify with the characters, because it didn't feel like they had any survival instinct whatsoever. It was very, very strange. But I have read a Junji Ito. I wanted to read a Junji Ito. I wanted to experience Uzumaki, especially because it is so well regarded, but I just don't think it's for me. So I will be moving on from Junji Ito, a whole box set of One Piece, and I am slowly making my way through it. Now, there are another 3 box sets that I plan to pick up. I will just be kind of picking those up as I kind of approach the end of each box set. But, I mean, it's been great coming back to One Piece, because it's been years. I mean, probably 2 decades since I read the manga, back when I was reading it in the monthly Shonen Jump. But what I'm doing is I'm watching the anime, and then as I reach a certain point in the anime, I will then go and read the associated manga volume with it, and kind of compare the differences. I'm a huge One Piece fan. It's been something that I've loved since I was, 11 or 12. I don't remember the exact age I got my Shonen Jump subscription. But yeah, it's been great kind of being back in there. And overall, like, both of these volumes are easily 4 stars. This is the introduction of Luffy and Zolo. There was a copyright thing where they were like scared they were going to get sued if they called him Zoro, but it's Zoro or Zolo, depending on what you want to do. I'm either at the end of Buggy's time, or am I ready for volume 3? I might need to check and see if I'm ready to read volume 3. So I might do that sometime today. But yeah, it's not going to make this video. And then I finished these 2. Thousand Li. This is the First War book number 3. And essentially this is where Wu Ying is kind of... It's been a while since I did any Thousand Li content. But I've read the first 2 books sometime like a year and a half ago. And they reached out and offered me a review copy of the 3rd book. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm not opposed to continuing the series. And I'm glad I said yes, because Wu Ying gets a lot of growth here. He does a lot of introspection. And this is kind of the only cultivation series that I'm currently reading. And I'm absolutely loving it. I've actually picked up the majority of the rest of the series on paperback. And I will be continuing to collect these for quite some time. I think book 10 comes out sometime in 2024. I ended up giving this one, I believe, 4 stars. It was a lot of fun. And I thought it was a good kind of stopping point for Wu Ying to kind of stop and address any sort of like real world issues that are stopping his cultivation. So that was a lot of fun. Then I've got a book review for this coming out. you'll know right now I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved this cozy kind of bardic fantasy. It was fantastic kind of getting to explore with Emery, Cal, and Aspen. I love this little trifecta of characters. I liked the vibes of this world. I liked the simplicity of the story. But also at the same time, I liked the complexity of the characterization and what the characters are going through. This was amazing. If you haven't picked up The Stray Spirit by R.K. Ashwick yet, you need to do so. This is Lute Song, Book 1. This is 5 stars all day long. And I think it came at a time when I needed a cozy fantasy, which just also helps. Like, I just love Emery and Aspen and Cal. Like, they're fantastic characters. It was really good. And then at the time of recording, I have 3 days left. I'm not really looking to push myself too far. I am doing a beta read of Bloodstones for Tori Talks, and you guys are going to want to get your pre-orders in because it's amazing. But I'm not going to say too much about it right now, other than I'm absolutely having a blast with Victoria Tekken's Bloodstones, which comes out in late November. It's going to be a blast. But as I'm finishing that beta read up, we've also got Robert McCammon's Mr. Slaughter. This is number 3 in the Matthew Corbett series, and I walked away from this series. It's been a while. And I won't say I walked away from it. I kind of put it on hiatus, and then I was kind of looking at my shelves going, well, it's fall, and these are like historical fictions with like a slightly creepier vibe, which is kind of when you want to reach for those. I'm like, now might be a good time to come back and read some Matthew Corbett. So I kind of put out a poll I put it out to my patrons on Patreon, and I was like, hey, you choose. I gave them 4 options, and more than one person chimed up that they wanted me to continue with Robert McCammon. And I was like, all right, fine, we'll do it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm currently about a third of the way through this. It is just as intense as I expected it to be, but I'm having a good time with it. That is everything that I read in September of 2023. Let me know what you read. Do you agree or disagree with some of my decisions? Do you like the books that I read? Just let me know in the comments down below. But that's all I've really got for you today, guys. So till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.